Hi, everyone. Welcome once again to Produce Spotlight. As I've mentioned, my name is Shayna. So happy to have you along today. I'm one of the dietitians. And for Produce Spotlight this month, we have been talking all about produce items that you can incorporate into different desserts. So today we have none other than the beautiful plum. Okay. And we're going to be talking about a couple of other things along with our plums today. All right. Plums are a type of stone fruit. So I want to get into a little bit about what other stone fruits we have to offer in our stores. And then we'll dig deeper into the plums and we will finish off today with making a beautiful fresh pudding, fresh pudding cake with plums and nectarines. I say fresh there, but I think I meant to say French. Pardon the typo. All right, so I am actually going to start with prepping our pan for our pudding cake, okay, before we get into all of this, because we need to have our pan preheating and warming up in the oven. If you're not too familiar with what a pudding cake is, essentially it's a thinner cake where the bottom of it has a pudding-like consistency, not actual pudding, but pudding-like consistency, and the top is more cake-like. All right. Typically, these cakes are made by having your cake batter and then pouring a hot liquid over top. As the baking occurs, that liquid drops to the bottom and creates that pudding-like texture. We aren't pouring any hot liquids today, but my assumption is that that's why we are preheating our pan in the oven, okay? We're going to grease our pan with a little bit of butter, pop it in the oven at 350, and let that warm up. And that's going to kind of be our warm liquid on the bottom. Okay, so this is a bit of a mix of that pudding cake, but then also a French clafouti, if you have ever heard of those before. It's kind of a cross between a custard and like a Dutch baby pancake. So lots of things melting together to give us this cake, I will call it today, with plums and nectarines. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here once again, and we'll go over to my ingredients and let the oven preheat with this pan while we chat about all of the other good stuff, okay? So we'll stop there and we will bring up our ingredient side over here. You guys should be seeing this. I've just got to tell you guys, gladiolas over here. These are from my garden. They are my pride and joy of this summer. I planted them for the first time this year and I'm just in love with them. And I thought they matched the whole color scheme of the plums. It's a little nod to all of my fellow Hokies out there as well, with the orange and the maroon. So they had to hang out with us today in class. Like I said, these are from my garden, but right now we do have gladiolas in our floral department in our stores. Okay, they are in season, so pick them up there if you don't have some. All right, let me grab our dish here today. You will see in a few moments that the recipe calls to use a cast iron skillet. I am not doing that today. My cast iron skillet, it needs some work. It's in a little bit of bad shape. So, and maybe you don't have one either, which is completely okay. You can use a regular baking dish. You can use a pie plate. Whatever you have is completely fine. I just have a stick of butter here that I'm going to grease along the bottom. You might be wondering, can I just spray it with cooking spray, which is something I often do. I use a canola spray, and you can, but I will say the butter is going to add a little depth of flavor to this. It's going to help with the browning of the cake a little bit more. So if you're feeling a bit of a splurge day, as you can see here, it's not that much butter. I would say go for that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, put this in my oven now, like I said, at 350, and let it sit in there as my oven preheats, and we will go back to chattering about everything else we're going to talk about today, okay? So let me put this in the oven. I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry, lots of switching screens around here today. pull our PowerPoint back up. You should be seeing that now, the agenda. Okay, so as promised, we are going to be chatting more about stone fruits in general here. Okay, so stone fruits, they're also known as drupes, which we'll chat more here about in a moment. Okay, um, and they have a very thin skin that can either be smooth or fuzzy. Okay, when we think about fuzzy, we're probably thinking about peaches. But essentially, they are called stone fruits because they are a fruit that contains a pit or a stone. Okay, and that stone is essentially a large seed. And there are different varieties of stone fruits where either that large seed is going to come apart easily when you cut open to it, which would be known as a free stone. That flesh pulls away nicely, or it's a cling stone where the flesh is going to hold on a bit more. All right, so here are the common stone fruits that we usually think about: peaches, nectarines, cherries, plums, apricots. And then we have some hybrid mixes, okay? Plum cuts, which you will see in our stores right now. I have one over here that when we pan back to our ingredients, I will show you. But plum cuts are a half and half mix of plums and apricots. We also have fluots. They have a bit more plum to them. I have seen them in our stores before. I haven't seen them this season yet, but maybe in your store. And then we have apriums, which is more of an apricot. Okay, so we have fluots more plum, apriums more apricot, but they're both a mix of that plum and apricot situation. So, question for you guys is, what is your favorite stone fruit? Where are you in these categories here? Do you like the cherries, the peaches, the plums, or are you more of that mixed bag? I have fluots, plum clods, and apriums all mixed together. Or maybe you don't like any of them at all. Something I didn't put on here is that this is actually a fruit or a group of fruit that folks can be allergic to. Okay, those ones that have the actual pit in them. And you might be more allergic to some than others. I am in that boat, unfortunately. And what happens is the body kind of mimics the same allergy that you have from birch trees. And you can get that fuzzy feeling on your mouth, all of that fun stuff that, not fun stuff, excuse me, that goes around with allergies. But for most people, I'm not going to say everybody, but for me in particular, I think I've mentioned on class before, once these fruits are cooked, that allergy protein denatures and I can eat them okay. So fortunately, I can eat like a peach pie. I just can't eat a fresh peach. um, Here are our results with the stone fruits. It looks like cherries and peaches are really winning out there. And maybe you haven't had the opportunity to try something like the pluots or plum cots or apriums. So definitely check for those in our stores, like I mentioned. Okay. Now, here are some unexpected stone fruits. Um, and I have raspberries on here. I said that these fruits can be known as drupe. Raspberries in particular go by that drupe name with all of the little bumps that's in a raspberry. Those are all separate drupes that come together. I know that both Joni and Jenna earlier this month have talked about some different stone fruits. Joni chatted all about peaches. Jenna talked about raspberries. So you might already know some of this information, but these things are also considered stone fruits here. Goodness, guys, I have another typo up top. What is up with me? I apologize, okay? So I know we're not focusing on peaches today. Plum is the star, but we do have some nectarines that we're going to be incorporating into the recipe. So I just wanted to chat about the differences between the two, okay? For both of them, peaches and nectarines, you can find them in white or yellow varieties. And essentially, nectarines are a genetic mutation of peaches. And because of that mutation, there's no fuzz. All right, so kind of like a peach without the fuzz. White varieties of both the peaches and nectarines are a little less acidic. So if you're looking for something with a bit less tart or that acid feel, go with the white varieties. Peaches also have usually a softer texture. So those are more typically used in things like baking dishes, like a pie or other type of dessert, salsas, jams, sauces, where the integrity of the fruit doesn't have to hold up. Okay. Nectarines, on the other hand, they remain a bit more firm. So they're great when cooking, maybe you're adding them to like a meat dish, like a chicken or something like that, or putting them on a salad. They're going to hold up a bit better. Does that mean that you can't use them in baking? Absolutely not. We're using them today. But as I said, if you want the integrity and the form to hold up, use a nectarine over a peach. All right. So here we are. Here's the highlight today for our produce spotlight, and that is plums. And you guys know I love purple fruits and veggies. So plums fit that bill, and I think that's fun and exciting. Which starts off with the first nutrition benefit that we have here. That purple color comes from the antioxidant anthocyanin. And those anthocyanins are linked to potentially helping with inflammation. But what we even more so think about is heart health. Okay. Purple goes along with that heart health situation there. Plums also are very rich in polyphenols. And polyphenols are a type of antioxidant as well that can help with heart health. But the big note here with the plums is that these polyphenols can kind of help relax the blood vessels a little bit and lend to more proper airflow to the brain, which studies have been showing to really help with memory function. Okay, so good reason to have them for that too. And then the big one I feel like that folks lean towards with plums or prunes, which we're going to talk a whole lot about, is the digestion factor. Okay, they do have a nice bit of fiber to them. All right, so let's dig a bit deeper into that with prunes. So prunes are dried plums. Whenever they are being dried, nutrients in the plum, aka now the prune, become much more concentrated. So when we think about dried fruit, often the question about sugar comes up. We're going to tackle that in a minute, okay? But just remember, you dry something so it becomes more concentrated. So other things are going to be becoming more concentrated too, like fiber. But is that the big reason that prunes are usually used to help with things like constipation? Kind of. That's like half the reason. All right. Let's talk about why else here in a second. After I show you, we have a ton of different types of prunes to offer in our stores. You can see here from just plain Jane prunes that have been pitted to individually wrapped ones, organic ones, as well as ones that have some probiotic fibers added to them. So all great choices. All of these here do not have any added sugar to them. Okay, so like I said, we're going to talk about sugar here in a moment. I know I'm putting you in suspense about everything from sugar to constipation. So let's talk about that digestion component here. Why are prunes or plums typically suggestion to help with bowel movements? And that is because plums, as well as prunes and some other fruits that you see here, naturally have sugar alcohol in them called sorbitol. Okay, so in a lot of sugar-free type things, you might see different sugar alcohols like erythritol, sorbitol, those types of things. Sorbitol is a naturally occurring sugar alcohol in certain fruits. Okay, it's just there. Nothing has been added to them. It's just a part of its carbohydrate makeup. All right, apples, pears, the stone fruits that I've already been talking about, and then even more in particular, the prunes, because they've been dehydrated, right? Higher concentration of that sorbitol. So what does sorbitol do? It draws water into your colon or your large intestine, okay? And when that water is there, it's going to start pushing things and make things move. So that is why it could potentially help with constipation. But just note something that I mention often about sugar alcohols, and sorbitol is no less, is that for folks who aren't experiencing constipation, that sorbitol can cause some GI discomfort too, right? So if you get into a lot of the, no sugar granola bars and gums and drinks and things like that that are really high in those sugar alcohols, like protein drinks, you might have too much of an effect of that sorbitol that you don't want. All right. So let's talk about sugar. All right. So as I just mentioned, and my oven is done preheating, so we'll pull that out in a moment. As I just mentioned, we are dehydrating and things become more concentrated. The natural sugar content in the plum then becomes more concentrated in a prune. So we want to be making sure that if we're eating dried plums or prunes or consuming juice, that they don't have added sugar to them. All the products that I had on that previous slide, no added sugar to them. But we do want to be mindful about the juices, okay? Sometimes we can run into some added sugar there. We want to look for 100% juice. So is it that, oh, prunes and plums and whatever, they have too much sugar, I can't have them? No, a lot of these products, like I said, don't have added sugar to them. They're naturally occurring. But if you are diabetic and you are counting your carbohydrates, it's something to be aware of, that the more we process that fruit, like the plum into a prune or a prune into prune juice, the more carbohydrates it's going to have, because like I keep stressing, concentrated. So here's a kind of a visual, talking about carbs naturally occurring once again. One medium plum, which is what we're working with today, has about 7 to 8 grams of carbs. Whereas 5 prunes, okay, which is a serving size of prunes, has 26 grams of carbs. And then if you're drinking the prune juice, this is where we really need to be careful if you are diabetic. 8 ounces of juice, 44 grams of carbohydrates. All right. We're not going to get into recommendations for carbs and diabetes, but high level speaking, typically a lot of folks, whenever they have diabetes, depending if you're male or female, how tall you are, how much you weigh, it's all very specific. But usually per meal, they range between like 45 and 75 grams of carb per meal. So if you're drinking 1 glass of the prune juice, for some folks, like a female, that could be your whole meal's worth of carbs. And we don't really want to waste our carbs on that, unless, of course, your doctor is specifically recommending it because you are having some GI problems, okay? So always consult your doctor about those types of things. But I just wanted to point this out in terms of those natural carbohydrates, not added sugar, but natural carbohydrates from across the board with plums, prunes, and prune juice, okay? Enough of all that. Here's our recipe for today. Isn't it lovely? Here it is. I said fresh earlier. I knew I meant fresh. Okay, the French pudding cake with plums and nectarines. The links to both are here for Giant and Martin's that you can check out again later. Here are the ingredients we're going to be working with in a moment, and the directions. Okay, the directions, you guys know I don't follow the rules very well. So I've changed some things up here. It calls for a cast iron pan. I already told you I'm not using. It also calls to mix all the ingredients in a blender, which I am also not using. Why do I want to pull my blender out for this? I don't. Maybe you do. It can be easy and convenient, but it's not already on my counter, so I'm not gonna. Okay. All right. Let me stop sharing my screen there, and we will go back over to our ingredients. And I will pull that dish with the melted butter out of the oven, okay, in just a moment. I'll let it in there actually while we mix the rest of our ingredients, okay? So over here in my dish, I have 3 eggs that I'm going to whip up. Once again, this you could be doing in your blender to make it a bit easier if you want. I'm not into that today, or probably any day. So here we go. All right. We have our 3 eggs. Now to that, we are adding 2/3 of a cup of milk right in there. and a half a cup of flour. Here, I'll pull this over so you guys can see it a bit better. Half a cup of flour to that, as well as a tablespoon of vanilla and a quarter of a cup of sugar. Okay, recipe calls for a half a cup of sugar divided. A quarter of it is going right into our mixture here. Okay, so let's set that stuff aside. Here's the other quarter cup that we will save for just a moment. Let's get this nice and mixed up. And then we will start working with our plums and our nectarines. Okay, we need 2 of each. There we go. You can see this is going to be a very thin batter. And we should be good to go there, that we are going to pour that into our dish in just a moment after we are done working with our plums and nectarines. Okay, here are my plums. Here are my nectarines. Back here, this is that plum clot, okay, where it's half plum, half apricot. So here's the plum, and here is the apricot, all right? And then this is the baby, and this is my flowers. Okay, just had to say that one more time. All right, let's open up these plums and nectarines, okay? We are going to leave the skin on them. Just going to go ahead and cut. We'll see if these open or if they're gonna cling to the stone. Oh, there we go. Beautiful, okay? And I'm just going to, we'll do it this way, slice them like so. That skin on there leaves that fiber intact, also leaves that purple color with the anthocyanins in there as well. Okay, put those to the side. And then rather than trying to pull that out, I just kind of go around it however you want to do it. Up to you. Okay, put that to the side there and just make a couple more slices. All right, looking good. And then we have one more of those to cut right here. Some varieties of plums, when you cut into them, will have, rather than this like yellow flesh, they'll have a really pretty like reddish tone to them. It really depends on the variety of the plum that we have in stores, which can be variable, okay? So as you can see, these ones have that yellow hue to them. Put that aside, and we'll cut this. Then we will start working with our nectarines. In the way of what I have over here, the apricots, and talking about stone fruits, one of my favorite combinations, that was a little thick, that's okay, is sour cherries, okay? I think I've mentioned to you guys before, I love sour cherry pie. But what my grandma and I used to do often is make sour cherry apricot jam, which was just lovely. And I haven't had that in a long time. And see, here's the nectarine. Looks very similar to a peach inside, but it's not. All right. So we'll go ahead and cut these as well. But yeah, if you haven't had the combination before, sour cherry and apricot, it's lovely, especially in the form of jam. I think it's been about like 2 years since I've made jam. The last jam I made was peach jam. And I might do it again this year. Now that we are in like full force peach plum nectarine season, I feel like I might need to make a new batch of peach jam. We shall see. I'll keep you guys posted on that, okay? Look how pretty these look together, okay? Wait till you guys see how much I like fuss over how these are gonna look in this pan dish too, I bet. You guys are gonna have to be like, no, Shayna, stop. Stop messing with the slices. All right, One more, and then we will pull that dish out of the oven and get this going here. Okay. These were kind of big plums and nectarines, I would say. In terms of picking plums and nectarines, what makes a good one? It's going to be very similar to peaches, where at the very top of here, you just want it to be a little soft, okay, a little give. Anything more than that, it's going to be a bit mushy, okay? If they are like that and you want to stop that ripening process, put them in the fridge. Okay, if you have them on the counter, they're just going to get more ripe. So, but if you need them to get ripe, that of course is a good way to do it. Okay. All right. Almost done. One more slice here to go. Do it this way. Perfect. Okay. So move these to the side here. Let's go get that pan out of the oven. All right. Put that here. Just a moment. Down. Okay. That is here. Now, we are going to go ahead and put that liquid down first. Okay, I'm just kind of giving it a stir again. Okay, remember, hot liquid, gonna give us that like pudding-like consistency of it. All right. Now, don't let me touch this pan, guys, because I'm gonna forget. Let me move this around. Ooh. Okay. I know we're almost at time, or we are at time. So if you have to go, please feel free to go. Now, you could just sprinkle these however you want, but I mean, why wouldn't we do this, right? I won't hold you guys here, but I'll just show you what I'm gonna do here. And like put these ones in the middle, maybe even two plums in the middle. I kind of want it to stand up a bit so you can see that color. We can go back around. Okay, this is gonna go in the oven then at 350, which it's already preheated at, for about 30 to 35 minutes. And then you'll pull it out. And maybe we have too much. Like I said, these look like big ones. I want the ones that have like this nice little tone to them in the middle. And then you have your beautiful French pudding cake. Okay, I feel like I need another one in here. We'll use, oh man, come on now. Here, we'll use this one. Okay, I'm gonna go around, tuck in more of my plums here, and then we will pop it in the oven. Ooh, see, that was hot. That was hot. All right, those were a little bit bigger slices of plums. It covered it up. See, we'll have to go around again. There we go. Okay, guys, I'm not going to bore you with while I do this, but I will finish this up. I will put it in the oven and I will take pictures and you will get to see it later. Okay? So let me bring this back up here. Okay, and share my screen again for you. Here was that recipe again. Just a note, coming up this week, tomorrow, Joni will be back at it with Wellbeing Connection, talking about nutrition for managing diabetes. We do not have class on Thursday. Okay, we'll be back on Friday for a double day. Okay, you didn't get your class Thursday, but you get two on Friday. Jenna and I will be talking in coffee chat about Pennsylvania local foods. So we just talked about our game plan for that, and it's going to be super fun. You don't want to miss that. And then we have a special class on Friday. And that is with me. We're going to be taking one more vacation for this summer, doing a road trip out west. That's at 12 o'clock. So don't forget about me on Friday at 12. Come back for that. But if you liked Produce Spotlight in particular, in the month of August, we'll be talking about stretching summer produce. So come back for those. The link is there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I know I went over time. I apologize for that. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and stop the recording because I see that we have a couple of questions.